Good morning, everyone. Will the Committee on Budget please come to order? It's 10:03 a.m. I'd like to welcome Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto, Councilmember Cordero, Councilmember Kiaina, as well as Councilmembers Okimoto and Chair Waters, as well as Councilmember Tolba. Committee Member Wire is excused for the time being. It doesn't appear that we have any members participating remotely by video conference. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Welcome, Councilmember Wire. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways, remotely and in person in the council chamber. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when the agenda item is taken up, as English and Hawaiian are the official languages of the state of Hawaii pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the state constitution and Section 1-13 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes. Members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference will be called upon first. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. I'll then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to offer testimony. Please utilize the raise hand feature in Zoom to be called upon. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. I'll identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number, and when your phone number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. I'd also like to welcome Councilmember Tupola, who's joining by video conference. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, Councilmember Tupola, can you identify each and any person who's with you at your location?
Aloha, Budget Chair. I'm here alone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Some friendly reminders and tips. As always, video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time at which you're called to testify. And when the timer on screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Once all the remote testifiers have testified, I'll proceed to in-person testimony here in the chamber. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. As a reminder, for those council members participating from outside of the chamber, in accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audiovisual contact with you and cannot reconvene until we reestablish contact. So therefore, please announce beforehand if it will be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. As a reminder, written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described in the posted agenda. And as a courtesy, please turn off or silence all cell phones. We're going to dive in. We have a long agenda today, so we're going to try to keep it as tight and efficient and effective as possible. We're going to start with agenda item number 1, which is the informational briefing from the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation on their capital and operating budget. This is Departmental Communication 195. I'm going to start with the testifiers first. Let's see, we have 2 registered testifiers. We have Donald Sakamoto, followed by Angela Melody Young. Are either of them here or online?
Chair,
oh, there we go. I can hear you. Yes, please proceed. Mr. Sakamoto, please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Committee for Budget. Name is Donald Sakamoto. I'm the President for Citizens for a Fair AD Ride. We deal with public transportation, bus, handy van, Skyline. Today, I would like to speak on the budget of Skyline. I know it's necessary to have this Skyline project to proceed on with Laurie Kaikina and the rest of her part. My concern is the Skyline operation audit that was done by Troy Shimisaki's office recently. I participated with the audit to give input about ADA violations. So I'm worried about the construction of phase 2 and phase 3 of the rail stations and surrounding areas to be more accessible for our ADA persons like myself who's blind and others, especially with the 35th anniversary of the ADA law this July 26, 2025. So we have to do better. So I hope, look forward for the report from HART on their projection of the rail stations and rail project and the ADA accessibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Sakamoto? Okay, hearing none, thank you for your testimony. We also have Angela Melody Young registered to testify. Is she online?
Chair, she's not logged on.
Okay. Is there anyone else standing by remotely to testify, or anyone here in the chamber who would like to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, there being none, we will now welcome the representatives from the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation to begin their presentation. We have their Executive Director and CEO with us. Lori, please proceed.
Good morning, Budget Chair and Council members. Thank you for having us this morning. For the record, Lori Kahikina, CEO and Executive Director of HART. With me, I have my Deputy Director, Rick Keene, my Project Director, Vance Suda, Joey Manahan, our Director of Government Relations and Communications, and Richard Oshiro, our Director of Budget and Finance. So I'd like to get into before I get into the presentation, actually, I would like to give a brief update on the status of the project. So I know Andy Kawano testified the other day on the status of opening of segment 2, and HART has consistently said we will transfer the assets to DTS before the end of the year. So I know it was stated October, and I just want to caution, I'm trying to temper expectations with you folks and the public. So we are still saying before the end of the year. However, it is prudent for DTS and BFS to budget. The earliest we could possibly open is October, so we should budget for that, but just understand, right now, it's still the end of the year. We will know better in the June-July timeframe. If you remember segment 1, we went into trial running. After the trial running, we go into system demonstration. On segment 1, we budgeted 90 days of system demonstration for Hitachi, and they did it in 35 days. However, in segment 2, it's a little bit more complicated in that you have a live system ongoing. So they would have to shut down segment 1, integrate 1 and 2, and bring them up together. So we're anticipating it's going to be longer than 35 days. So they go into trial running in the summer timeframe. Once they complete that, then they go into system demo. And so we'll know more around June-July timeframe what that opening or when the transfer will happen. DTS City Administrations determines when they're actually going to go into revenue service. For segment 3, as you folks know, we awarded the Tudor Perini contract for City Center Guideway and Stations. They are moving quicker than I anticipated. It's a design build, so I thought they would take about a year alone just to do designs. They're already out in the field. They have started to do their borings and their potholing. You should see columns starting to come up later this year. In the EVA, they're going to start an EVA, kind of work out all of the kinks and bugs, and they may have a second heading starting in Halekuila. So you should start to see columns again later this year. We are still slated to open or transfer that segment 3 in 2030-2031 timeframe. So again, I just wanted to temper expectations based on what was put out in the media this morning and yesterday. So in our presentation, this is the HART operating capital budget. This was approved by the Board of Directors on November 15th, and we submitted it both to administration and you folks. But what we are proposing for our operating budget is about $175 million, and for our capital budget, $794 million. Just to summarize on the staffing part, as of February, we have 47 filled city positions, city HART only positions. We are budgeting to fill an additional 25 in FY26. So total budgeted FTEs would be 72. We do, similar to E&V, we do capitalize our expenses. So on the operating side, that equates to 6.7 on the operating budget FTEs, and on the capital, 65.3. Total, we have 98 authorized FTEs, but for FY26, we're requesting 72 total. On the next slide, it shows what our expected funding sources will be. So the GET, we're anticipating about $371 million. The TAT, $89.7 million. OTAT, Oahu TAT, 57.2. The federal funding, so the $125 million, this is anticipated When we complete City Center Utility Relocation Package 4, that's the Dillingham Corridor. When we finish that, we're eligible to apply for the remaining $125 million. So if you remember several years ago, we started to get funding from the FTA. $744 million is what's outstanding in the full funding grant agreement, and they hadn't given us any funding since 2017. To date, we have received, in calendar year 24, $125 million. That's when we amended the full funding grant agreement. And then when we awarded that Tudor Perini contract, that was an additional $250 million. So we received $375 million in calendar year 24. What's remaining in the full funding grant agreement is this segment 2 opening. Once we open that, we are eligible for an additional $125 million. And then when we complete CCR 4, that's another $125 million. And the last $119 million, there's not a milestone tied to that, but we will work with FTA on that. So total outstanding still is $369 million. The city subsidy is $10 million, and then other revenue is $4.3 million. Our unreserved balance, that's forecasted as of June 30th of 2025 is $601 million. So that's a total of $1.26 billion. The next slide is a summary of our operating budget. Majority of our budget, so what is being proposed, again, is $175 million. It's an increase of about 26% or $36 million. Of that $175 million, 97% of that is for our debt service expenditures. So of that $170 million, $129 million is going to the principal payments of our outstanding bonds. That's an increase of about $40 million from last year. But the next line item there's a decrease in our interest payments by about $5 million. So obviously, as our principal payments goes up, the interest payments will go down. So you'll see that consistently over the next few fiscal years, principal payments increasing and interest payments decreasing. Our total labor costs are budgeted at $1.5 million. It's an increase of about $368,000 or 32%. And in the next slide, I'll explain why that increase. I do want to bring attention to about midway down, the board current expense. So last year, the board budgeted $514,000. Some of it was for staff augmentation, communications. So they have reduced that, and basically it put it back down to $14,000, which includes their travel expenses and meals, because sometimes the board meetings, we include lunch to pay for the lunches. The remaining $60,000 is included in there because in my contract, when we were negotiating, the board put in my contract for CEO training. So we budgeted about $60,000 for that because the one that they put in my contract to attend is about $45,000. So, but they did leave me an opening if I can find something that is a little bit more expensive and a little bit less time consuming, they're open to me presenting to them. But right now, it's budgeted at about $60,000. Next slide. So going into a little bit more detail on our labor costs. So our labor cost has increased by about $182,000 or 20.6%. I want to bring your attention to about six lines down, city admin expense estimate. That's $116,000. So that is for the hazard pay that is being negotiated with the unions. This number total for HART is $1.6 million. $116,000 is being on the operating side. The remainder is being capitalized. We think it'll come in lower, but right now, DHR asked us to budget $1.6 million. The other thing I wanted to bring attention to, so the board salary increased from $165 to $226. That is predominantly an increase. One of the staff members left and came back, and there was at a higher salary. And there's also changes to OPEB and fringe. So you can see on the board, OPEB costs, it was clearly understated last year at $175. So That's why it looks odd at a 53,000% increase. That's because of the error last year. So the 92,000 is in line, more in line. Okay. For our capital budget, these are the projects that we are anticipating, we're asking for appropriations for. For the City Center Guideway Station, that's the Tuda Perini contract. It is a total of $1.6 billion. We are multi-year phasing it. So last year we requested 482, and this year we're asking for 527 million. The Pearl Highlands Transit Center and Access Ramp is 224 million. We are hoping to at least start the design in this fiscal year. The Waipahu Station Makai entrance, this has been on our books for a long time. We understand both council members and state legislators want us to put that back in, and the delay on this was we were waiting for the CCGS contract to come in. We're saving every penny we possibly could to fund that contract, but now that we know what the number is, we think we can start moving forward on that Makai entrance. And then the last line item is our capitalization of our operating costs. So it's at 23 million. So total, our capital budget request is $794 million. So Chair, that concludes my presentation, and we are open for questions.
All right, members, any questions? We'll start from right to left. Vice Chair Nishimoto, Councilmember Okimoto.
Sorry. Sure, thank you, Chair. Good morning.
Morning.
I wanted to say, I thank you for presenting. It would have been really helpful just for many of us if we had this before. I think it wasn't presented until, was it this morning?
Fair enough.
So it's hard for us to compare all the information. So that's just one.
Understand. No, and the
request that we
reason, I apologize to all of you. The reason for the delay was when that Tuda Perini contract came in, we needed to restructure all of our financing. And literally this morning, we are trying to go through all of the numbers to make sure that everything matches and we are still in a good place. The board just recently approved last month, end of last month, the updating of all of the, because whenever we move numbers between our contracting packages, we need the board's approval. So that just happened, and then this morning, we're trying to make sure all the numbers fit. So definitely, you're correct. We should have sent this to you a week ago, but literally this morning, we're still finalizing all of the numbers.
And I appreciate you being thorough and doing your best to be
Yes.
accurate. It just, thank you for
No,
recognizing that.
you're absolutely right.
Can Hart provide a breakdown of the positions funded with the CIP funds and a list of the vacancies that you guys currently have?
Yes, is that in BudCom 3? Yes, I believe it's in BudCom 3.
Sorry, can you say that again?
I believe it's in Budget Communication number 3.
Okay.
So City Council asks us every year to break out our staffing. So if the question, if the answer is not in BudCom 3, please, we will get that information
I'll
to you.
follow up.
Okay.
Thank you. And just a second follow-up, and thank you for putting the Pearl City, the Pearl Highlands Transit
Yes.
Center access ramp on here. The cost seems very high, and so I'm wondering the 224 million. What is the reason behind that number? Because I know when we stopped the process a couple of years ago, it was because the parking lot was going to be too. I'm sorry. Am I
Were you
getting this
talking about
wrong?
Waipahu entrance or?
The Pearl Highlands Transit Center and access ramp.
Yes. So we have to build a transit center right adjacent to our Pearl Highlands station. So it's actually quite extensive. We have to have a big bus area for the buses to come in, and then there's a flyover. There's a ramp coming in from
Right.
H2 into there. So,
What was the original cost? I know when we stopped the parking lot, was this?
the parking lot wasn't even included in this.
It wasn't,
That
right, we
has
took it
been
out.
removed from the
Right.
full funding grant agreement. So the parking structure was 330 million. So that's on top of this 223. And that was 1,600 stalls. So if my memory is correct, it comes out to about 206,000 per stall. And
Okay.
it was a conscious decision with administration, Hartboard, and us to eliminate
Right,
that.
right.
For now, we do need a solution for the North Shore and Central Oahu residents. Yes. We
Okay.
don't know it yet, though. We don't know what that solution is yet.
I do appreciate, I've always appreciated you being, fiscally minded.
Yes.
So the 224 million, again,
That's the
entails.
bus transit center, which will be adjacent to the Pearl Highlands station.
But the ramp that
and then
goes over.
and a H2 access ramp to
Okay.
that.
And the goal is to start it this fiscal year, or the design starts this fiscal
Possibly
year?
to start, maybe the design, yes.
Okay. Okay, I have my team follow up. So in the budget communications 3, I know you said that's where it should be.
Okay.
It looks like the budget communications 3 only shows operating budget positions.
Oh, you want to
And
know
51
what's in
contracts?
the... okay,
There's
hold on.
93 CIP funded positions. If you could provide that information to
Yes,
me and my office later,
absolutely,
that would be
Council Member.
wonderful. Thank you.
yes, yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Council Vice Chair Wire, questions? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll be brief. Mahalo, Director, and your whole team. Just so I can ask, because I know it might come up in a couple individual conversations, what's like a realistic timeline with the Waipahu Station Makai entrance? Like what would be accurate to be telling
Right.
folks? I mean, I think it'll be great to say, hey, we've identified it's still going forward.
Right.
But you know,
We would love to procure and start the designs as well. What I've mentioned in the past, so what I mentioned this morning, the delay on this, one was the funding we
Yeah.
wanted to save. But the second one also, it was in the flood zone. And we would have had to have taken the property adjacent to the station, which I really did not want to do. They did not want us to take that property. In the meantime, FEMA updated their flood maps. And so now we no longer are in that flood zone. So we don't have to take that property. We just need to design so that we have that access. But I'm hoping to start the designs in this fiscal year.
okay,
So we usually design maybe 1 or 2 years and then construction after that.
perfect.
Yeah.
Mahalo. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Budget Chair. Hi, Director Kahikina. Thank you very much for sharing about the start of funding for CCGS. And I know that you were going through how out of $744 million, we have now received to date $125 million. And then when segment 2 opens, another 125. And then I was unable to keep up afterwards, but
Sure,
were you
sure,
able to
sure.
finish the
Sure.
next 2 funding?
Sure. So, yeah, I went through that really fast. I'm sorry. So in calendar year '24, we received $125 million for amending the full funding grant agreement. After we awarded the CCGS contract, we received right at the end of the year $250 million. FTA, DTS was very instrumental in getting that over the finish line. So in calendar year '24, that was $375 million. So what's remaining of that $744 million is $369, and how it's broken up, segment 2, when we open segment 2, we are eligible for another $125 million. So that was in our fiscal year '25 budget, because we are anticipating to get that within fiscal year '25. CCUR 4, when that is completed, so that's Dillingham, we're eligible for another $125 million. And then the last $119 million, there is no milestone tied to that. So I think it's just a matter of once we open segment 2, once we finish CCR 4, discussing with FTA, how do we release that last $119 million?
Thank you. And yes, you're right. I know that for many years, none of the $744 million was released. So I really want to credit you and your whole team for really making that happen.
Thank you.
So
Thank
great
you.
job.
Thank you.
And for any of the 125 million, will we be able to start using that currently for construction?
So how our budgeting works is our financial plan, all of the income is put in a pot, let's say, and then how the funds are dispersed, we base it on what our anticipated spend for all of our contracting packages that are throughout. So short answer is yes, we have already budgeted that into our income so that we can start spending it on construction.
Okay, perfect. And my next topic, and it'll be my last topic, Chair, is relating to eminent domains. Of course, we've been seeing that a lot through Dillingham and Evelay. And I was just wondering if we've budgeted for any more takings.
Yes, so the funds, we are budgeted in our contracting packages to take the various properties, whether it's Dillingham or going down into Kaka'ako.
Okay, thank you. And I know that, well, I just worry that if it gets a little more expensive for those takings. So how do we manage that?
Right, so we are closely monitoring that, how much we budget in our finances for the takings. So if we find that it's going to get over than what we budgeted, we do have to relook at our finances, and any changes, we do need to get board approval before we do that.
Oh, understood. Right.
Yes.
And I do see a lot of that during the board meetings as well.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I think that's all I have at the moment, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kiaina.
Actually, no questions. Just want to reiterate my support for your leadership and the
Thank
leadership
you.
of your team.
Thank you.
Chair Waters.
Thank you. Good morning,
Morning, Chair.
Director. Hey, how solid are your numbers here on slide number 3, the expected funding sources? Just looking at the GET, the TAT, and the Oahu TAT.
Yeah, they are projections. Did you want to come up and, his last hurrah. He keeps taking home his suit thinking, oh, I don't ever have to wear it again. Like, yeah, one last time, Rick.
Good morning, council members. Thanks for that question. Rick Keene, I'm the Deputy Director at HART. Yeah, these are estimates, but we did update our estimates on GET and TAT and the Oahu TAT recently when Lori mentioned updating of our financial plan. Since the 22 recovery plan was submitted, pretty consistently, we have exceeded what we had forecast in that recovery plan. So when we did a recent update to our financial plan, we did work very closely with the FTA and the PMOC on what assumptions to use going forward on these. It was very helpful that we had a big bump up because we had been exceeding our forecast. So these are newly forecast numbers. We're pretty confident in the assumptions that we used here. I know there could be changes in the way GET is funded. If they, for example, take GET off of groceries and that sort of thing, it'll have an impact. So they're always subject to change. But right now, we feel pretty solid on the GET and the TAT and the OTAT forecast. The federal funding Lori commented on, city subsidies, pretty standard. The fund balance, that's our estimated cash balance at the end of 25, fiscal year 25. And we've been maintaining a very solid cash balance, especially since the funding renewed from FTA. So our cash balances right now are really strong. They'll get used as we get into the construction of the CCGS because that's when our expenditures will really go up. But right now our cash balance is strong. So overall, I would say we're very confident on these numbers. They do include assumptions, but I think we're very confident with these numbers.
Great. And can you remind everyone the Oahu TAT? A few years back, we dedicated a portion of the Oahu TAT towards helping rail. What percentage does this $57.2 million represent? Is that 50%?
That's 50%. Yeah, for the first 2 years of the Oahu TAT, HART was allocated 33%, and then after 2 years, it bumped up to 50%.
Okay. And as you mentioned, most of the money that you're allocating this year is for debt service, yeah? 97%?
In the operating budget, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the feedback that you're getting from the FTA? As far as our numbers are concerned and our progress and the likelihood that we're going to
Well, on the
continue to
numbers
get
part,
funding?
I think on both progress and numbers, they've been very supportive. In fact, they've expressed numerous times their confidence in the team, the confidence in the project. I think their willingness to start funding again after 7 years of no payments is an indication of their confidence in us. As we worked on the revised financial plan recently, we worked very closely with them and they gave their concurrence on that and they felt comfortable with the assumptions that we used. So all in all, I would say the relationship right now seems very strong and very supportive.
Oh, that's great to hear. We see on the news and we read in the newspaper a lot going on in Washington, D.C. Have you folks noticed any change in the team that you're working with over at the FTA, and do you anticipate any of that occurring?
Well, we haven't heard anything, so we think that's good news. We hope that this next 125 that's budgeted in fiscal 25 for the completion of segment 2 will not come about until the end of the year. So we're hopeful that by then the dust will have settled a bit. We haven't heard any indication of any risk to that number. In fact, when we have talked to people in DC about this, their feeling is that it's pretty solid because of the amended FFGA, the fact that we've hit all of our milestones, the fact that milestones are associated with those remaining payments, and the fact that that's been approved through Congress. The indication is that they feel it's pretty solid. There's been a lot of talk in the media, too, about the California high-speed rail system, and there's been, out of Washington to us, there's been clear distinctions made between that situation and our situation. So at this point, we haven't heard anything, and we still feel confident in the amounts. If we hear otherwise, we will let everyone know, but right now, we still feel confident in the numbers.
Fantastic. Lastly, I noticed in slide 3, you don't have the next payment from the FTA in your FY26 budget. Is that accurate?
Oh, it is. The fourth line down on slide 3.
Federal funding. I'm sorry, it's
Federal
right there.
funding, that 125. Yeah, there's one 125 payment in FY25 expected, and then this one will be the FY26. And then after this one, there's 119 million left after this. So, we received half of the remaining balance in 24, so we feel like we're in pretty good shape on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much, Chair. Aloha Lori, aloha Rick. Just wanted to continue to support both of you on your strides forward. As stated by Councilmember Cordero, we sat on that 744 million number for way too long.
Yes.
So it's very nice to see that we're progressing through the full funding grant agreement. I wanted to just ask briefly, I know that Chair Waters just kind of touched on what are the sentiments. So what is your thoughts about that last amount that's not tied to a milestone? Your thoughts on how to ask for it is to do what?
Right, after the, like you said, the 125 for segment 2 and 125 for CCR4, there's a remaining 119 million. So because there's no milestone tied to that, I believe once we finish CCR4 and get that remaining 125, I think we can start the conversation with FTA on releasing that. And I am hoping they will not hold on to that until we open the last segment in 2030, 2031. Gut feeling they might, because that's their last stake or I guess leverage on us. But hopefully, as Rick mentioned, we've improved our relationship with FTA. They have some confidence, a lot of confidence in us now. Hopefully, we can start that conversation right after we finish CCR4.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts, Director, was in your leadership and wisdom, just to consider possibly speaking about it way before then. The reason why I'm saying that is because of, different changes that may happen. I do think that instead of waiting until we get this done and that done, and then we converse about it, see if you guys can't come up with 1 or 2 thoughts on prior to all of that, what that 119 would look like. I'm saying that precautionary, because I would hate for us to get to the end and somehow we hadn't figured out how to get that last amount, and then we have to wait till the end, because I do think that one of the things you brought up in the past was that the more we're able to get money in the front end, the more we owe less on the back end for our interest payments. Is that correct?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And you're right on your thoughts. I guess I didn't want to appear greedy. And like Rick said, we've met every milestone with them. So we've already established credibility with them. So you're right. I could start the conversation already, especially with what's going on in DC right now. It might be safer to start soon.
I just don't want to leave it up to chance. It's a lot of money. We need the last amount of it. Whatever you decide is a good strategy, we'll support you through that. If you're like, hey, the best strategy is for that last 119, I'm going to ask for it when we do this. Let's put it out there. Put it out to the universe, manifest it that, we're going to get this done. You've been able to deliver on a lot of that. Another follow-up question separate from that was in regards to, last year we discussed this whole communications, a small budget for the board, a budget for you guys. How did that all play out? Did the board end up using their communications fund that was budgeted for it? Did they need it?
No, they actually did not use any of that. When I mentioned in the board, when I mentioned in the presentation how the board expenses went from 514 down to 74, they did not use all of that, the communications, the travel. So yes, they did not use it.
Okay,
And
I
they
just
reduced it.
reiterate that
Yes.
because I did say that that was unnecessary. So I'm glad that at least we put it out there. They tried. It wasn't necessary to use it. My third question. I only have 4 questions. The third question would be, in regards to those. I'm sure you've heard it. There were some minor conversations with DTS about whether or not public-private partnership would be good to kind of do extensions. My only question, and you don't have to answer the PP3 one because I know that was a huge fiasco. If there were these ideas, about creative solutions, like how you said, we haven't come up with a solution for that or for this. What meetings do these solutions get discussed in? Is it only in the hard board meetings, or do you guys have other strategy meetings with engineers and other cities to kind of strategize through it? Where do all the smart ideas come from, like finishing stuff that's really hard to solve?
That's a good question. The smart ideas start within my HEART team. I'm very confident in them, and a lot of them are plugged into the industry, so they are reaching out. But as far as ideas, internally, it would start with us. And then if we're actually going to start having conversations with one of our board members, because exactly that, he wants to talk about the P3, and we're open to anything. Right now, our main charge is to get to Kaka'ako and hopefully get to Ala Moana. That's what we're authorized to do. But spurs and extensions, we actually need you folks, city council and administration. I believe you are the authority to grant HEART the authority to go further. But to answer your question, it starts within HEART and within the industry.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would really love to see some brainstorming, mindstorming, because I know you guys are doing what's right in front of you right now, but in order for us to kind of solve those really hard problems, I think we're going to have to pull in like ideas and just let everything come out, right? Controversial or not controversial, let everything come out, because we're at that point where I think any idea needs to be considered. My last question is in regards to the hazard pay that you set aside. Is that hazard pay in relation to people who worked for, can you just explain why you guys would have hazard pay set aside?
Sure, this is all tied to COVID. So I can't speak to when I wasn't here. When I was here, when I started in 21, effective April 1st, anyone, I believe HEART was 100% telecommuting. As of April 1st, I had everyone report back to the office. And so I think that's what's tied to what happened before me and during me. People, the negotiations are ongoing. We have nothing to do with the negotiations between the different unions. We are 100% HGEA. So whatever is settled on, we're assuming the same calculation is being applied to HEART as all the other city departments. And so that's where we were told just budget $1.6 million for the COVID, hazard pay due to COVID.
Okay, understood. Just wanted to hear what union it was and what the talks were. Thank you so much, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Before we get into round 2, I have several questions. First and foremost, on the 6-year capital plan, there are several contracts that are listed as 100% completed, and yet there's small amounts of money in the out years. For example, HDOT coordination for the Kamehameha Highway Station Group, as well as $119,000 for the Kamehameha Highway Station Group design in the out years. Why are there small remaining amounts in the out years?
I'm sorry, Chair, what number? Could you give me the CPP number?
Sure. So this is, the first one is for the HDOT, FD 340, Final Design, Kamehameha Highway Station Group. It's about halfway down the page. And then the other is HDOT coordination for, that's
Vance, do you know what it is?
MM921.
Of what?
No, sorry, MM920. West Oahu Farrington Highway.
Oh, okay, sorry. They don't want to come up. I don't know why. You guys must be intimidating.
We're not scary, don't worry.
So it's the final designs of, even though we've handed that over to DTS, It's the final as-built design work.
Okay. Okay, good. Let's see, we have a fare collection consultant. What's the purpose of the fare collection consultant with regard to HART?
That's you, Vance.
Given that this is driven by DTS, no?
Yeah, yes, but we install it though. So we install the fare collections, so the vending machine that's going in, so that's what this consultant is for. Is that correct?
Okay. Okay.
Is that correct? Okay.
Let's see, a few more quick, easy ones, just so we're all on the same page. UH West Oahu is a temporary park and ride. Are there plans for a permanent park and ride at any point?
Yes.
But that's not listed here, so is that going to be a DTS issue?
No, it's DB 272. So it.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you were coming to save me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the DB 272 West permanent UH West Oahu parking and entrance. Do you see that?
Okay, I do. So that's good to know for our West Side colleagues.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Outside legal counsel, FY27. There's an increase in the outside legal counsel line. That's MM 980, and it increases it peaks in FY27 and then decreases. Is there a reason why it peaks in that year?
Do you know what that's for?
Is that just when the most contracts are active?
It's actually not a set contract. I think we were assuming if there's litigation, whether it's with Hitachi or Howard Hughes, but maybe even Tudor Perini, but it's not a set contract.
Okay.
It's a time and materials.
And then this leads me to my last question for round one. Speaking of Howard Hughes and others, can you paint us a picture of the remaining eminent domain actions that are needed for the city center guideway phase?
So of course, that is the last resort. We do not want to go eminent domain. I think there's several that was presented to you folks with Kamehameha Schools, and they have been terrific. And the amount that we settled on for what how much they're owed, it's not that. We're all in agreement on the money. It's the other issues, and a lot of it is both Kamehameha Schools and Hawaiian Electric are extremely conservative as far as liability, and we're stuck in the middle. And so we couldn't agree on the terms in the agreement. So that's why Kamehameha Schools, they said, actually, if you go eminent domain, it's actually better for us. We have been working with other property owners, and usually when we start the eminent domain process, the negotiations, they come back to the table and we're able to settle. So we're hoping there's not going to be many more eminent domains, and we still work out with the owner. So it is budgeted right now.
Good. All right, members. Second round of questions for Hart. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. Hi, Executive Director Kahikina. So during my committee that Councilmember Okimoto, or my committee Vice Chair Okimoto chaired last week, we started asking Director Morton about a lot of questions relating to expansions, and I had a question relating to for further extensions of rail, and if it's possible if P3s can be used for that. And I know that kind of what Councilmember Tupola mentioned about the chaos and fiasco that was before, but if now that we have our system in place, if that's a possibility, and if you've seen any municipality utilize that.
It's definitely a possibility. It just has to make sure that it's cost effective for the entity that is coming in. So one board member that really wants to use the P3 is maybe they can help pay for, not the whole thing, but maybe for the stations, or maybe, what did he call it, TIFs? But I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on TIFs, but I'm not sure if HART gets that money or operations would be DTS. So I definitely have to educate myself on what that is, but anything is on the table at this point. The reason the P3 failed the last time was the costs were much more than what was anticipated, so that's why it failed.
Thank you. I do have, I know that we don't like to talk about other bills, but I did put forward a request to talk about TIFs in a permitted interaction group,
Okay.
and also, I guess, the sponsorship lady and people are mad at me, but it's okay.
okay.
But, things like that. But I really want to be able to see if the city can get help. And
Absolutely.
so would love to discuss that further with
Absolutely.
everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, any other round two questions? Chair Waters.
Just real briefly, I stumbled across the CIP 6-year plan and it looks like in the past we appropriated money to acquire land near Ala Moana Shopping Center. It's not in your budget documents, but I'm curious. Do we own that piece of property next to Ala Moana Shopping Center? Remember the Watermole property? Did we ever purchase that? Do you know?
No, I don't believe we own it. I think DTS was interested in making that a transit center, but I think communications between Watermole failed.
Okay. No.
Yep. Oh, anything else you want to add or no? No. Okay. No, he doesn't.
It's okay. Just wonder if you knew. Okay.
Yes.
No, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Last question though. Do you anticipate that because of the tariffs, there's going to be an increase in raw material costs?
No, I'm glad you asked that. Others have asked us that too, including the media, but we are bound by Buy America. If there's just one federal fund coming into the program, the whole thing is federalized. So no, everything we've already, we don't use the Chinese or other material. We have to use American.
That's great news. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Councilmember Tolba.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to, Director, just a comment. I just really appreciate the fact that you guys are staying on your milestone.
Thank you.
Hitting your milestones, and I hope that we can get more rail so that we can see people riding the rail. I think that's the biggest
Fair enough.
disappointment, for people in my community. I got to justify this,
Fair enough.
Just about every week. So
Yes.
I'm hoping that we can move quickly, meeting those milestones and keeping our fingers crossed that the FTA will continue
Yes.
to fund and so that we can get people on the rail. That's all. I just
Thank
wanted to
you.
say thank you,
Thank you
for your
Council
update.
Member. Thank you, Council Member.
Okay, members, any other questions for Hart? Councilmember Tupola, anything? Okay. I have one last question, and actually Andy Kawano sent me the answer for it, but I wanted to get your take.
Oh no, hope I'm consistent.
There was a $92 million transfer or reversal for $92 million reversal for Hart Recovery for Debt Service. It's a little complicated, but it was noted in one of our reports. I'll send it in writing just so we get some clarification about what this is, since it's a fairly large amount of money, but it has to do with debt service. So we'll send something in writing.
Sure. Is it tied to the city's, what we're calling skin in the game, was that 214, how many is total? So maybe it's tied to the city's bond for that, like this year in our budget, we have $10 million for the
We'll send it in
subsidy.
writing.
Okay.
It's a little confusing even to me, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I appreciate that.
Members, last call, questions for Hart. Okay,
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Chair. Thank you, council members.
all right. Up next, we have the Executive Capital and Operating Budget Review section. We are going to be hearing from the Department of Transportation Services, Department of Permitting and Planning, Department of Community Services, Department of Information Technology, and Department of Facility Maintenance. We'll be taking testimony at this time on any of those 5 departments, any and all of those departments. We do have registered testifier Donald Sakamoto.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Budget Committee. Donald Sakamoto again, President of Citizens for AD, right? Regarding the budget for Department of Transportation Services, I totally agree what they can do to give us better bus handyvan and skyline services. But again, the issues with the Department of Transportation's the audit report that came out with the city auditors. I have concerns about the ADA and the pedestrian bridge at Pro City Highlands, which they're finally going to build. And I do worry about accessibility. So we need to be more stringent on vehicle procurement. We have the sunset paratransit vans that they bought 29 not too long ago that are very difficult to walk aboard on the stairway and inside the van because it's very tight. As a blind individual, it's very difficult to go up the stairs up and down. Even guide dogs for the blind won't go up the stairs, so they have to use the lift. And also, I'm kudos for Director Martin for getting some more vehicles. These vehicles will have a side lift and a side door in the back, which should be easier to walk in. I believe they should be coming in December, so kudos for him. But I think more emphasis should be done for the ADA to make sure that we have proper vehicles and safety along outside our rail stations. Work with Ed Sniffen, State DOT, and just make everything work together, communicate, and have a better ridership for all persons who are kapuna, disabled, and our fellow citizens riding the rail system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Sakamoto? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. Is there anyone else? Okay, Angela Melody Young, please proceed.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying in strong support, of course, of the HART's budget because the train helps us to get around town. And also, I am in strong support of the Department of Transportation Services because of the bus operations and also the handy van, which helps senior daycares and senior centers. And I think the process can be much more efficient. It's just that things are very technical. So the riders, they have to book only one van per rider. It's very like time consuming for the drivers. So there can be more efficiency in the process if someone can come up with more ideas for that, who's very sociable with seniors. Okay,
thank you.
Oh, one last thing.
Okay.
The Department of Facility Maintenance, yes, very quickly. The Clean Water Heroes can help with trash because the Clean Water Heroes teams has tools, bags, and equipment to supply neighbors and community members and organizations, Hawaiian Electric Chinese Chamber of Commerce, which cleaned up Chinatown downtown with just volunteers and nonprofit organizing. So that can help with a lot of the other things that will require funding if you can get more organizers to volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Angela, for joining both the Kapalama Canal cleanup as well as the Chinatown cleanups, which are part of DFM's clean water issue. Any questions for the testifier? Okay, hearing none. Clerks, is there anyone else standing by remotely to testify?
Chair, there are none.
And clerks, is there anyone here in the chambers waiting to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, seeing none, we're going to proceed now to the Department of Transportation Services. For those of you following along at home or online, their presentation can be found as Departmental Communication 190.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Council. My name is Roger Morton, and I'm Director of the Department of Transportation Services. Before I get into our formal presentation, I'd just like to acknowledge the great employees that we have at the department who are here today with us, starting with, of course, our very well-known and very capable colleague, John Nucci. We're lucky to have him in the transportation department. He does a great job every day, and he really has a passion for transportation that is just palpable. We also have with us today, we have Kelly Akasaki, our city traffic engineer. We have Tai Fukumitsu, our head of our transportation technology group. Chris Clark, our chief planner, and Ian Crittenden, our assistant chief planner. We have Eileen Mark, the head of our transportation mobility division. Kelly Psyche, who is very Akamai on our budget and is an internal control analyst. Steve Nevis from our rail group, and Renee Espial from our Complete Streets, and of course we have Chris Ovid, our ASO. The department, just going to the slides, are they up on the second page of the slides? was just a little portrayal of our budget, but how it breaks out between transit and non-transit issues. First, the first slide is the total budget of $487,561,540. That's the combined DTS, OTS, rail budget. It has a large increase this year, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. The DTS component, and I've said this to everybody, that actually DTS is a small department in terms of our internal number of employees, and that we have about 889 funded positions. We have about 45 vacancies, and I'll get to that too. One of the largest components of our budget is our partners at OTS, their operation to operate both the bus and the handy van. The handy van portion is somewhere in the high 60s range. The rest of it is the bus. And our rail division, which operates Skyline, includes our staff, includes our partners at Hitachi, includes the other service contracts we have, such as our smart card system, our vertical transportation, that's escalators, elevators, our security forces, and those. And that is going up considerably, with most of the increase in our budget from $89 million in the current year to $120.7 million in the next budget year. That's a 35% increase. Most of that is accounted for two reasons. One is that would be a full funding of our Skyline operation, including 4 new stations, 2 new trains, and extra hours that go from 4 a.m. until 10:30 p.m. So all of those factors tend to raise the cost of things. Going to the next slide, just our funding by division. Transportation technology, 39 positions, a budget of $7.15 million. That's essentially, most of that is in our traffic signal system, island-wide. A portion of that is in our permitting system. That's where we permit street usages and other types of things. Our transportation engineering group, that's traffic engineering primarily. That's we're with you guys many times on local issues, and they get a lot of exposure island-wide. It includes not only the traffic engineering, but alternative modes such as bike paths. They now have Beaky under them. Our transportation performance and development group, transportation planning, and some of the business things we have. One of the notable projects there is the Alapono Bridge, which we met with the Waikiki Neighborhood Board yesterday and gave them an update on that project. Our transportation rail division has 38 positions in it. It has a budget of $107 million. The difference between $120 million and $107 million is funds that are included in 2 other divisions. Some of the funds for rail are in my admin division. Some of the funds for rail are in transportation performance and development. And finally, our transportation mobility division, that budget includes both our internal DTS staff. There are 23 positions in that group, and also our partners at OTS. Next slide, please. And we did have some budget issues that were beyond the budget ceiling that were provided. Most of them are fairly small in the scheme of things, and they're listed here, including some additional money for safety improvements. We are going to try to do some increase in the states in the red light camera. The way that system works is the first 10 were put in as a pilot. They were funded 100% by the state of Hawaii. The state is expanding their system on state roads, but have indicated to us that they would like us to expand it on city roads, but they, would have to be funded by city funding, and that's what that small amount is in there. We have a bridge project that DDC is doing in Kalihi Valley later this year. What it does, it'll landlock people, so the only access out would be to Likelike Highway, and we're going to help DDC by providing a microtransit program there where people that are landlocked that use the bus will be able to get down to Kamehameha Shopping Center and perhaps a little further than that. But it's going to be a small pilot for us, and it might it might provide us lessons if we want to expand that type of program in the future. We are designing some security improvements at one of our facilities. Next slide, please. In terms of our vacancies, we have 45 vacancies currently, 45 out of, I said, 179 positions. That's about a 28% vacancy rate. We have plans underway. We are interviewing people and planning to hire people, and we hope to have 33 hired by the end of the fiscal year and the balance in 2026. Next slide, please. There's a slide here on overtime. The only, I think this was at the request of some departments. We don't have a lot of overtime in the department. We have overtime when we go to public meetings. Most of our overtime, though, is when we operate street festivals, parades, races, those kind of things, because we do send our staff out to manage those events along with HPD and other first responders. And that does generate a lot of cost for us when we go out to support the various street activities that are going on. Next slide. In terms of our revenues, we are showing passenger revenues or system revenues of about 49.7 million. Hopefully that's a little conservative and we'll be able to come in more than that, but we budgeted it in a conservative way. Next slide. We don't have any federally funded positions in our operating budget. That's good, I think, that we don't have any. It's possible that we may, in the next year, we may choose to have some of the some positions that are partially funded by federal funding, but at the current time, we don't have any. In terms of federal grants, within our operating budget, we have the largest grant we have is the $21 million in preventative maintenance, which the government considers, or the federal government considers it a related capital expense, and they allow us to use it for offsetting our operating expenses. The $120,000 is a building manager at our Joint Traffic Management Center. Next slide is some of the details on our capital budget for next year. We have money involved in continuing to modernize our traffic signal system. I'll make a particular note of our plan to replace all traffic controllers on the island over the next 4 or 5 years. This is the first year of the program. We're doing this in collaboration and cooperation with the State Department of Transportation. As you know, we operate almost all the traffic signals on the island, whether they be city or state. State has a small pilot program, Nimitz, Ala Moana, but the balance of the traffic signals are operated by the city. The state controls the policy of how traffic signals work on their intersections, but we don't. But what we're doing together is we're updating a common infrastructure because it doesn't make sense for the state to have one system and the city to have a different system. From the residents' point of view, it's invisible to them whether they're running on state streets or city streets. We're also, as we do every year, we have some traffic engineering improvements at various locations around the island. I think we've come in and we've talked to most of the council members about the district-specific projects that we have in that. Same thing with traffic improvements at various locations. Same thing at traffic signals, that those are part of ongoing programs. We have a list and happy to reshare that list of where those are. On our next slide, on our intermodal connectivity improvements, we have $7.4 million to do some improvements. The Waipio Point Access Road improvement has been one that we, for the last couple of years, we've been trying to get it going. This is a program jointly funded by city and state, and we are hopeful that we're going to get it done sometime this year. Our bus and handy van acquisition is usually the largest part of our capital budget. It is 74.2 million this year. It will purchase replacement handy vans and buses. We have an annual program of bus stop improvements. We have more in it this year, so we can make those kind of ADA improvements that Mr. Sakamoto has advocated for, and look forward to those programs. At the Middle Street Transit Center, we are making some improvements there. Among other things, we're going to put in a bus charging station there for our electric buses. Within the city, the Department of Design and Construction also helps us with certain programs. Their responsibilities include electrification of transportation infrastructure. That's the projects that are ongoing would be the Alapai project and the Pearl City project. That their money that DDC would be controlling for that. Our partners have been really stellar, stepping up to help us make improvements at some of our transit centers. Some of the issues were structural issues and some of the work pits and other things like that, some roofing issues, and those are things that DDC stepped up in doing. We're trying to program a reasonable amount of money each year to improve our municipal parking facilities. We have a program to make some improvements at our Pearl Ridge Bus Transfer Center. We've actually had that funded in prior years, but this is just top-off money that will hopefully get us. And DDC is getting ready to break ground on our traffic signal maintenance facility, which will be at our Pearl City yard and right there. And I think the contractor has been set there. They may have even started grading at this point, but it should be, the construction should be well underway this fiscal year. And then rehab of streets is a DDC project. It tangentially comes involved with us in our complete street projects. We get involved with DDC on that, but most of it is a DDC project. That is the end of my formal presentation, and happy to answer questions.
Okay. We're going to start here in the chamber from left. Actually, Transportation Chair, do you want to start? Sorry to cold call on you.
Okay, thank you. Sure. So we're going to do different rounds, right? Okay, thank you. First off, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm excited for all of it. But of course, there's a lot of things that, as I mentioned in committee, a lot of people feel, touch, or just very tangible for us. And of course, a lot of it, which is why I am very happy about it, is talking about the lights and like the different systems and the coordination of it all. And I know that it's budgeted, but do we have a timeline for, or like a mechanism of prioritizing which lights will be tackled first?
I think you're talking about the one like we just did in Kalihi on School Street, those kind of lights?
Oh, no, even just traffic lights for flow of traffic.
Yeah, we do have a timeline, and I don't have the detail here, but what I would say is that we are committed to doing a bunch of quick build projects in different parts of the island. Maybe 25 of them, but those would be similar to the School Street improvement we made that we celebrated earlier this week or last week, and we hope to get those rolling out. That's partially dependent upon some federal funding, I think. Yeah. What's that, Renee? I talked about the controller upgrades. Yeah, controller upgrade time frame is, as I said, it's 4 to 5 years. Ty, where are we starting on one side and starting on west side, and we'll be scheduling it out. So west side is an area that has not been totally connected to our traffic signal system. I'm going to brag that about 85% of our traffic signals are connected. That's much higher than most cities. Mm-hmm. So we're working hard to get west side done. We have some gaps in Central. That would be next priority, probably would be Central. But we'll be rolling that out in a logical way that way.
Thank you. And are a part of the computerized traffic control systems including traffic cameras?
Yes, there is traffic cameras. There's also, we're going to experiment and provide high-speed broadband at city facilities on the west side, city parks, satellite city halls, places like that. We're going to provide it because, frankly, when we trench or put in fiber optic cables, it's easy at that point to put in extra cables. It's much harder to come back later and try to do it again. But if you're trenching and putting cable in the ground, then we want to make sure that we're putting in lots of capacity.
Okay, and that has a priority or mechanism of figuring out where the priority traffic cameras will be placed?
Yeah, those are, and on the west side where we're doing it now, we'll work primarily with the State Department of Transportation because they own most of the, if not all of the traffic signals really along Farrington. But we have a great partnership with the state DOT.
That's great to hear. Thank you. My next question is relating to safe routes to school. I know that a lot of it through the federal government then went to the state government. And, in Kahawiki or Kalihi and Kupalama, we were looking forward to more efforts for safe routes to school. I noticed that may be lacking in the budget. I don't know if it's a cause for something. Would you be able to explain further?
The Safe Routes to School program is sometimes it's state, sometimes it's federal through the state. Right now, it's not an issue, but it's the kind of program that we're worried about in a going forward basis of whether we'll have funding for it. Having said that, we call it Safe Routes to School because it's a federal program, but whether we have a federal program or whether we don't have a federal program, we're committed to safe routes for our keiki.
Okay, thank you. And so is there going to be a specific program that we can work with your department to start implementing similar programs that we were doing with that federal program?
Certainly, any council member can come forward and can ask us, and our Safe Routes to School coordinator is very energetic in working with council members and loves to do that. So I'm looking forward to continuing that great partnership, and we're committed to, keeping our keiki safe as when they go to school.
Okay, that's great. That's great to hear. And yes, we've been very lucky to work with the Safe Routes to School coordinator. Okay, so my next question is relating to the electric costs for the first segment for the Skyline's first segment, and are we looking at already cost savings or any other type of alternative power to reduce those costs of electricity?
Not really. I mean, we use grid power. It is costly. It's frankly less costly than we first projected. So that's a good thing. Is that it came in slightly less than what we projected. It is dependent upon Hawaiian Electric changes in the cost of fuel and all of the other things that make the prices go up and down. If I'm not mistaken, Steve, it was about $9 million. Is that what we have in the budget for electricity for Skyline? Would be about $9 million. It is a significant portion of the Skyline budget.
Okay, understood. I did touch on a few of the topics, so I'll let come back around for the next round. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kia Aina, and then Chair Waters.
Thank
Over
you.
that way.
Director, always good to see you. I was just scribbling down, trying to organize my thoughts, and I have to tell you that most of the increase that I get is either DPP related or DTS related. So I just first off wanted to provide a shout out to your team, but in particular, Deputy Director Kelly Akasaki and Renee Espinal. I work with them all the time and in all parts of my district, and it's a lot of hard work, and they all three get a lot of cracks by the community, and it's no easy feat. But I just wanted to first, before I go into my questioning, talk to you about a couple of projects that you know are important to me, but they need to stay on track. That, of course, would be the completion of the Lanikai Transportation Management Plan. And because Phase 8 of the Kalapawai Roundabout is ending, it's critically important that we try to look at the long-term traffic mitigation in Lanikai because we're going to have that gap, right? So look forward to the completion of that. Kaliakasaki deserves a gold star for managing the Kalapawai Roundabout. It has not been easy. You guys are in the most difficult phase. We've had multitude of meetings, town halls, and we even had to deal with the traffic mitigation recently. Very difficult. So kudos to her. I also wanted to thank her for a very delicate issue with regard to the reinternment of Ibi Kupuna. From that project, as well as in Lanikai, we are going to be meeting with the principal of Ka'ohao Public Charter School to potentially have a solution where the EV could be reinterred there. So we're actually meeting with both lineal and cultural descendants in the near future. Okay, so those are my thanks first. So let's start off with rail. There are certain portions of rail where you have already taken over authority from HART. How is that going? Because, you know, I'm looking forward to the day that everything would be completed and you take over full authority. Tell me how that transition is going. Is it seamless?
I wouldn't call it seamless because there's a lot of moving parts involved in taking it over, but it is going as expected. Our teams are out there with HART in meetings and on the site, looking at that segment too, certainly on a weekly basis, and it's going well. But it's just a lot of work to get that done. We need to satisfy our federal partners, our PMOC as well, for our readiness to take over that. But I would say it's going. There are no unforeseen issues at this point. It's just a lot of heavy lifting.
But it is, of course, helpful because now you're getting a bellwether on what happens when you take it over completely, correct? So you're working out the bumps, hopefully, and so that when you take over all of the authority, then, you know, hopefully things will be smoothly. Okay. Second, on the federal grants, I know that you've done a good job on that front. But having said that, since I've been here, I've been working in different phases in my mind with regard to federal grants capacity building. So I have identified one of your agencies, your agency to include a federal grants planner, similar to 7 other agencies that have been identified. So I'm assuming that you would be open to that, even if you already have other types of councils, because I think that you, like DCS, have a lot of federal grants. So I'm assuming you would be open to that, correct?
Absolutely. Anything that and we've been made it clear that for other departments, we encourage federal grantsmanship and have, we worked with the Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization to even set up better training for city workers and state workers to make sure that we get our share of federal funding. Okay, terrific. My third question has to do with parking enforcement and the towing contract that was bifurcated between the Department of Customer Services and HPD. As you know, in the City Traffic Code, ROH 15, ROH Section 15-4.10, it gives the chief of police authority to be able to have parking enforcement. And I queried the chief yesterday if he was open potentially, because we don't have to create a new law, to delegate that authority to DTS and potentially attach the towing contract to it. And so the only reason I say this is multifold, of course, because parking is related to transportation. It's logical. There is a dire need for more HPD officers to actually do HPD's primary mission. So I feel that it would
take away park enforcement duties from HPD and give it to DTS. So my question to you is, are you open to that?
We would be open. I think that's really a charter issue, more than even an ordinance issue. I think DTS at one point had parking enforcement under the department. It was probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago, put under HPD. I think that whoever does the parking enforcement, that the towing contract should be linked to whoever's doing that. I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense for DTS to assume any type of towing contract responsibilities unless, in fact, we were the ones that did the traffic enforcement in the first place.
I agree. Okay, so having said that, I'm assuming, and fortunately, the Charter Commission will be stood up. So I hope that I have your commitment that we will work in tandem with the police chief if it's something that the administration would be open to. And then, of course, we have the Charter Commission that'd be looking at it. So thank you for that. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Speed bumps, as you know, is probably the most riser request that I get. And I'll be honest with you, I do know that the Neighborhood Board Commission said that they're going to try to put up a page with frequently asked questions so that we could direct our constituents. And I would like to say that sometimes when I get the riser, sometimes I got to ask a lot. And I guess it just would be very helpful if on your webpage or something, or you could provide us via a Word document the process so I can know with clarity how to direct my constituents, because I know that there is an assessment. I want speed bumps in a certain area, and I'm told that there's not enough money. So in other areas, I'm told there's money, and other areas not. And so I'm putting one in for Waimanalo in this budget. So I just wanted to, you don't need to answer it, but I guess I'm just thinking it would be helpful, because it's a frequently asked question and requires a petition by the neighborhoods to be able to sign up and all that kind of good stuff. So I think a good white sheet, one pager to explain it would be very helpful.
And I think we could probably put a one pager together that would be clarity to the neighborhoods that, how the system works.
Yes, and maybe share it with the Neighborhood Board Commission as well as all of the chairs. My last question, of course, has to do with speed limits. As you know, the law that you supported to decrease speed limits around schools is in place now. And I'm just wondering what the process with that would be, because I do know I put in a riser request relating to King Intermediate by He'ea, and I just wanted to know what is the process for, do you guys instigate it? Do the schools gotta request it from you? Does a council member gotta request it from you?
I think the answer would be that, there's a lot of schools and there's a lot of places so we're looking at having some type of contract that would allow us to do that in a bulk way without overburdening our partners at DFM.
Okay.
That's for the bulk. Now, as for individual schools, I think that we would be open to having individual schools in a reasonable number where we would be, particularly ones that were high priority, where we could make some interim changes in those areas too.
Okay, good to hear. And so with regard to the contract, do you need funds, or do you have funds to be able to put out an RFP for that?
It's requested in the budget, right? State funding is what we're looking for that.
Is it assured or not assured?
Not assured, but
so
it's what
why don't we try to put it in the budget?
Well, it's not in the budget at the current time.
I know, but that's why we're having a budget hearing. What is the amount for this contract?
Good morning, Renee Espio, Complete Streets Administrator. We put in a budget request to the Safe Routes to School Fund through state DOT. There, I think legislatively has been about $10 million put into that fund. We estimated somewhere between 500,000 to $1 million, I think would be on the far high side, to do, there's about 200 schools or so island-wide. And we estimated, I want to say like 8 signs or something per school. So we did a rough cost estimate
Okay,
that way.
thank you for that. Why don't we also just talk offline, because maybe we can burden share with regard to total costs. Thank you. And that's all my questions. Again, good to work with you guys.
Thank you.
Chair Waters.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Morton and Deputy Director Nochi and your entire team for all your hard work. You know, I want to point out that last night at the Waikiki Neighborhood Board, Director Morton spent over 2 hours there. So I won't talk about the Alawai Bridge, nor will I talk about the Kuhiu Avenue Complete Streets or Kilauea Avenue Complete Streets. But I do want to bring up Vision Zero. You know, my staff just pointed out that there's 16 fatalities since the beginning of the year, where there was only 6 last year. So Vision Zero, how's that going, and what can we do to help implement some of these policies so that we can ensure that our roads are safer?
It's frustrating for us too to see 16 fatalities in only 3 months. It looks like this year, you know, we've said that we have 1 fatality per week on average on Oahu, and that's just 1 fatality too many per week. Vision Zero is a planning process. It's going well. It is at the point of implementation at this point. We hope that we will be able to make a dent in that. I just don't think the public appreciates that, you know, that we lose 50 people a year on our streets, but we also seriously injure 250, 300 people that have life-changing injuries because of crashes that happen. You know, until it happens to your family, to your ohana, or to someone really close to you, I don't think people really appreciate the magnitude of the problem that we have. We're going to, you know, Vision Zero is, in part, it's aspirational to try to have this vision of running a transportation system with 0 fatalities, but that's our objective.
I appreciate that. I noticed that in your transportation technology budget, it includes $160,000 to install and operate red light enforcement cameras. Can you tell us what, where those are going to be? It sounds like it's a pilot project.
Hi, good morning. Tai Fukumitsu, Chief Transportation Technology Division. Those cameras, we have to do an engineering study. We've been receiving, just FYI, we've been receiving requests from everywhere wanting these red light cameras. There's only, you know, so much money in the pot. We plan to request every year for additional funds to add more. Just like the original 10 red light cameras, we did an engineering evaluation to be sure that we place these cameras in the correct locations. There may be more than 1 camera at the intersection, or there might be just 1 camera. It depends on the engineering evaluation where the problem is.
Okay, so you haven't determined what intersection it's going to be at yet?
We have not determined. We have not done any engineering evaluation.
Okay. I noticed $160,000. Is that enough money?
It's a seed money. It's a starting money. State is actually working with state to get a new RFP out. So we don't know what the cost will be to install these cameras at the intersections. We know what the cost was for the pilot project, but what we found out is the companies wanted to get into Hawaii, get in the foothold. So a lot of them really lowballed their numbers. So we do expect the cost to rise. We just don't know what the new cost will be.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you're looking into it, and that could be another strategy in trying to prevent fatalities. Next, I'd like to talk about sponsorships. I know you and your deputy have a lot of experience in the transportation world, but let me ask you to draw upon your experience traveling the world. I'm curious what kind of uh, things that you've noticed in other parts of the world where people, cities, have used sponsorships at their rail stations or inside of train cars or even in our buses. I know that we only have $176,400 in revenue, but in your experience traveling, have you seen any other experiences or other examples?
Well, in Asia, transportation and land development are inexplicably, connected. The major stations in Asia usually have railway-owned department stores, other types of real estate activities that go on. That's the culture. It's not the culture in Hawaii at this time, but that's the culture in Singapore and in Japan and other Asian countries. Across our country, exterior advertising it generates a lot more revenue than putting bus cards on the inside of the buses. And we have some opportunities both in the buses and at our Skyline stations to do that. Other types of auxiliary revenue, that's what they call it. There was discussion in the HART briefing over, different ways that HART has envisioned they might find additional funding for non-traditional funding for supporting it. But those, I think, would be the two main ones would be improved advertising, real estate operations, and there's one that we have looked at is from a sponsorship point of view is would you be open to a major airline coming and naming one of our stations at the airport after a major airline, for example? That might be, something that we could sell as a sponsorship. Those are just pipe dream ideas, but stuff that John and I have thrown around in our heads as to, whether or not if we build a state stadium, are there opportunities for naming our station at the stadium, our Halava station, or giving some sponsorship to that? We're open to those ideas. I think they're not things that we could do. There are laws that forbid us from having exterior advertising on vehicles at this point, but there is. There's a significant amount of money that can be made if that were allowed.
No, I agree, and I know that the transportation chair is working on a bill to allow that, and as long as we put some guide rails on there, and appreciate what Outdoor Circle and others are concerned about, but I'm so happy to hear that you're thinking about that, especially inside the bus and inside the trains. But where does this money go? The money that's generated right here for bus advertising, does that go into the general fund?
No, it goes into the transportation fund.
I see. Can we, if we authorize sponsorship for the rail stations, can we grab that and put it into the general fund?
That would be a question that I couldn't answer. I think you have to talk to BFS and maybe CORE about the restrictions that you might have. I do know that if the asset is developed with federal funds, then there are requirements that ancillary revenues support the operation of that federally funded facility. So there are some rules, that are embedded in federal regulations.
Okay, good to know. Thank you so much.
Okay, Councilmember Tupola.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chair. Aloha, Director Morton. Thank you for your report and, of course, for your hard work. I love seeing Tai Fukumitsu stand up and update us on the lights, and want to thank him for all his years of dedication. I just had a real quick question about the high-speed broadband. I know you've mentioned it before, and I'm glad that you mentioned that you guys are going to start on the west side and move down. OER also had some type of money set aside for like broadband or some type of like advocacy for it. Is that separate or the same as what you guys are doing?
I'm not sure what that separate fund of money is. I know that other parts of the city, DIT, the Office of Economic Revitalization have broadband policies as well, and I'm not sure whether they're confusing those. For ours, we're using federal transportation funds to haul the cable down the road, and we're using city funds at this point to do the laterals to provide the high-speed broadband off of the main trunk side. We're doing that in an abundance of caution because we're not sure whether or not those laterals and that those provisions of broadband are legal to be federally funded. So that's our plan. There is work going on, quite a bit of work on the west side already. I don't know if we're breaking ground yet, or Ty, do you want to come up again and just say what the time schedules are? I know you're working with state very closely.
Good morning again, Tai Fukumitsu, Transportation Technology Division. For the broadband system, it's in our CIP budget. We actually are working with DIT to put up some wireless communications. We have actually got contractors on board installing those wireless communication on existing towers on the west side. As for the fiber optic cables, we do work with our partners, which is HDOT, and we made an agreement that between Kapolei and Nanakuli, it's a big barren area where there's basically nothing in between there, but we still need to get the fiber cables to Nanakuli to the west side so we can go all the way down to Waianae side. The agreement was state will design and pay for the first half. So basically from Kapolei to Koalina, and DTS is currently under design, picking it up from Koalina to bring it all the way back to the west side. So that is currently being done as we speak, the design work.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. I appreciate the update. And Director, I'll try to pull together a small meeting just so I can coordinate the two pieces, because they did tell me that it was federal funding and it was specifically for broadband on the west side. But I just want to make sure that if we're doing the same thing, that we coordinate. And I think the other two parts that Councilmember Kiana brought up were also on the forefront of my mind. So I won't ask questions about it, but it was the toll contract. And hopefully if you guys could do a one-pager, that would be great. Common questions almost always at Neighborhood Board are transportation and parking related. So thank you very much, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We're going to loop onto this side. Councilmember Tolba.
I just wanted to say thank you. Appreciate your presentation, and I just wanted to say, again, mahalo, working closely in my district on speed mitigation measures and especially around the schools. And I look forward to hearing about how we can help with the Iroquois Point and the bus services soon. That's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Vice Chair Nishimoto.
Thank you. I got a quick question about your CIP. I think it's slide 12. You put the total at 132 million for your CIP. You have a rough estimate on what the breakdown is between federal funds and city funds in that 132 million?
More or less on all of these projects, with maybe some slight deviation on the Middle Street project, they're 80-20.
Okay. And
80-20 or more.
80-20 or more.
Right.
Okay, and that's kind of a formula that the federal government sets depending on what kind of project it is?
Yeah, so and for us, and these are transit projects, most of them, so for us, the standard is 80-20.
Okay.
For buses, it can be as high as 85-15. And for electric infrastructure, it can be as high as 90-10.
Do you happen to have like a chart that
Sure.
lays this stuff out?
I can give you one that would
Okay.
show, make a note of that so we can get a chart to you that shows the standard ratios. That was for FTA. We also deal with FHWA. So we'll put together a combined cheat sheet that shows you what those look like.
That'd be great. That'd be very helpful. With the current administration, do you see any changes to that formula, or will it stay the same?
Well, the first question is, will the programs be there, right? And I can't, I follow it pretty closely. I was happy to see the president bought an electric car yesterday or a day before. So, but I can't really tell you. So far, there's been all of the obligated grants that we have and all of the executed grants that we have. We've been told that they should all be good. Unobligated grants, maybe they would be. In fact, I can tell you they will be reviewed for compliance with 5 executive orders on things like diversity, climate change, and the 5 that have been in the newspaper. So if they're unobligated, it doesn't mean they won't be funded, but there's another part of the process that they will be reviewed. I'm going to guess by Washington as opposed to by our Hawaii people here in the federal agencies, and it's potential that could have impact on even some of the funding that we have now. But most of it is obligated funding, and so far what people have told us from Washington is that should be safe.
And unobligated, can you define that? How do you define unobligated?
Obligated means basically it's similar to what you would be used to encumbered.
Okay. Okay.
It's similar, not totally the same, but it's usually a contract that's already in place.
So encumbered is kind of the definition of that?
Yeah. Pardon me?
So encumbered is the definition of obligated.
It's not exactly the same definition, but it is the same principle.
Okay.
It's a federal definition, as it's a little different than what our city fiscal definitions would be.
Okay.
But it's close.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Director Martin. Thank you for being here with us today. I had a few questions, and most of it, I think, is related to rail, and I had a separate one. So with the rail operating expenses, there's an increase of about 35%. Can you provide additional information on that?
Well, as I said, most of that would be the extension of 4 stations, 5 miles of that, and an extension in the hours that we operate from. We operate now from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. and we'll be operating from 4 a.m. to 10:30 when we open our segment 2. That also includes increases in the cost of maintaining elevators. It increases the cost of security forces. It increases the cost of electricity. So all of those things are related to 2 things. In the contract with rail, on an annual basis, the unit cost of what we pay our partners goes up on a predetermined basis. This was determined many, many years ago. So costs go up, and there was an agreement of how much would it cost for a mile of service in 2020, how much would it be in 2021, and so on. So going forward into a new fiscal year, we get an increment of that extra unit cost along with the extra quantity of service that we're providing.
And you said this is mainly for the next section, the next segment.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I know that committee chair might have asked this to Director Kahikina earlier, but I'm not sure if I actually heard an exact answer. And this is relating to the electronic revenue collection operations and maintenance services. For the consultant, because I saw that in here in your report, and it says that there's an additional $4.7 million for this service, but the department is also asking for $1.4 million for the same service, and HART is paying for the same thing. Could you clarify that?
Yeah, HART installs the system. We operate the system. So HART's expenses right now are installing ticket vending machines and fare gates at new stations. Once the system is turned over to us, we process that, and part of the things in that contract that are provided for us are things like call center management, call center operation, inventory, distribution, retail outlet relationships that are done by a contractor. And that's what that amount is in our budget.
Okay, the contractor is the consultant.
The contractor is a service provider. It's a consultant I think of as someone who thinks and tells you what to do, but this one is someone that operates a service, and the service is operating, repairing, maintaining the smart card system.
Okay, in the same paragraph, you mentioned a credit card payment system, not, so we have the Holo card that we've been using and that's been required, but now we're also including this credit card. Does this service that we just talked about include the proposed credit card payment system?
That would be a separate expense to develop that. It is a new technology that is being adopted worldwide, all over the world, in this country and in other countries. The major benefit of expanding our Holo card to accept credit cards directly is that we don't have to buy as many Holo cards. If you are an adult or a visitor and you come to Hawaii, we don't have to give you a $2 card or pay or even sell you a $2 card if you have a contactless credit card. That's the major benefit. And so we are looking to put that capability into our system. Our system is multifaceted. You know, the city workers can use their employee badge. Students can use their student cards. And this is just another media that makes sense because we still go out and buy 200,000 or 300,000 cards a year. And this would certainly put a great dent in the number that we needed.
Yeah, no, I agree, because everybody has to pay for the Holo cards. So we're still going to have that. You're just not going to use it. You're going to have another option.
My view, and this is just my view, but my view is that the Holo card closed loop system is ideal for our Hawaii residents, especially our lower income, our seniors, our people with disabilities who can get a special card that wouldn't be available if you just use a credit card. So for our local residents, it makes sense that they have a Holo card, a Holo account. Maybe at some point we'll have a resident fee or a resident fare that would, you have to have a resident card in order to do that. So I think that different parts of the system have, different things that make sense. And we're trying to navigate through to pick the pieces of the thing. But in essence, it's a payment system. It's like a credit card bank. It's a payment system with a very complicated back office and different ways that you can, that you can access the payment part.
It's just, thank you, just what you just mentioned. So if you are a local resident and you want to take advantage of a discounted rate, you have to use a Holo card. You can't use your credit card. Is that the plan?
Yes, if you were right now, if you were an adult user, you could use a credit card without any difference. You could have an account, you could use a credit card after we put it up. But if you were, certified to be eligible for, say, a low-income fare, no, you couldn't use a credit card for that because once you start providing discounted fares, then you get into internal control issues. Because I have 4 or 5 credit cards. If I was a senior, which I am, I could give it to my younger wife or my kids if it was just, if there was no vetting that way. So it's complicated to once you get into a reduced fare to do that. But the bulk of our riders are, adults, and so it makes sense that we cover that large group. That are paying the full fare, and then we don't have the internal control problem of vetting them whether they're entitled to a concession fare.
Okay, and last question on the same topic. So with the credit card, with this new system, the vendor will, like always, charge a fee for the credit card uses. So how much of that what will that be? And is that going to be on the responsibility of the rider or the city? For example, and I share this in I think my committee actually, CSD with the kiosks of their car registration, the vendor takes on that fee. Sorry, that we take on that fee, and the vendor, we work with the vendor. So the transaction is on the consumer, not the city. So in this case, is that what's going to happen if a person uses the credit card?
No, we would, I mean, right now, if you use our online system and you add funds to your Holo card, or you add a transit pass to your card, you can do that online using a credit card or a debit card, and we do not charge a convenience fee for that.
But if you take it onto, that's if you're putting stuff on your Holo card. Is that what you just?
Well, I mean,
if you're using this system and you take your credit card onto the bus or the rail.
Well, yeah, on an online system, you use the credit card to put the product on. In a credit card system, it just avoids that necessity to have that step. But it's both, they're both credit card transactions. They both have fees of about 2.5%. And our intention would be that we would pay them. Now, having said that, we can price our product to account for that too. And we have to a certain extent. For example, we are proposing higher charges for one-day passes and three-day passes, because we know that visitors are going to buy them. So we know they're going to buy them with credit cards, and we've baked that into what we think our proper charge should be.
Okay, so the plan for the city is to include that into the cost of the fare, so that the city is not paying for the credit card fees if somebody uses their credit card. Is that what I understood?
Not quite. We do pay, but we're charging more for the product to begin with. So we're charging, I think the rate commission has proposed that we charge $45 for a 7-day pass. That's a relatively high price for a 7-day pass, and most of those would be sold in a credit card environment. So the higher price of that product, in pricing it includes the understanding that we're going to lose 2.5%.
Okay. At some point, it would be nice to see if, when this continues, what number that is that we're eating on the city's end.
And we have the amount that we pay now, because we use credit cards now, so we can happy to get that to you.
Okay. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Council Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And Mahalo, Director, for you and for the entire team's work. And totally agree. I mean, getting the speed humps is challenging. I'm grateful to have the experience in Honolulu where they're not city speed humps, but we have the community asking for speed humps to come out. And so it's given me a little more patience with the conversation. And in reality, I'm really grateful for the team being so invested on calming measures and other traffic mitigation measures and working with the community on that. So thank you for that. I don't have super, I think a lot of the info's been discussed. And so really, I think one of the main things I wanted to talk about or hear your thoughts on, after following Hart and not, I think they're in their lane within the authority they have. And so I think wanted to just maybe ask your input as, transportation expert. And as we're coming up on this 2030, 31 date, I'm just curious at what point we need to be facilitating, the continued conversation so we don't end up with these gaps in building out our infrastructure. Because I know, the Central Oahu community, 100,000 plus folks from Whitmore down through Milani and Waipio, a lot of their conversations back in the early 2000s in support for rail was the understanding that because the spur is not going to come soon, the park and ride would provide that support. And that's also supporting the 20,000 folks up on North Shore too that could commute down, knowing that park and ride isn't going to materialize. But we're coming up on that 2030 date. I'm just wondering what you see as the options in terms of moving forward and where we need to be at as a body if we're going to follow through with those promises and commitments to the community to get mass transit to their community, right? I've been just looking on the map, trying to figure out, like, how would it even work? Would we go up H2? Would we go up Kamehameha Highway? But, if we can't have this huge park and ride at Pearl Highlands, I'd imagine it could be situated at the higher up stations we're supposed to be providing the community. But yeah, welcome any input or thoughts you have.
It's a complicated question. I do agree with Lori that fundamentally, it's a city administration, city council type deliberation. But in the 2031 type timeframe, we're going to do a lot with buses. We have a high-end bus that we are proposing for Central Oahu. We have a mobility center plan that we're looking at in the Haleiwa area. We're looking at connecting that in a very fast way with Waiawa Station.
No, I super appreciate all the work on that, and we'll beat down the partner.
Yeah.
But just since we're short on time, I wanted to hone back in on the question.
And as far as the park and rides go, right? There's park and rides at Mililani. We could expand that capability and link it to.
No, super appreciate that. So I guess when I come back to the question. Because like you said, the council, we need to be initiating resolutions and stuff. So I'm just asking you in terms of timeline, if the expectation is we're going to follow through with the commitments to the community. I mean, would now be the time we need to be having those conversations and expanding authority for HART? Or is there a certain time that we need to be having that conversation?
The Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization is commencing a rail expansion study. It's a high-level study. It's not a detailed engineering study, but it's a high-level study. I think that's a great place to start. Is to look at a very high level. I think AMPO's the right group to do that high-level transportation planning. And if something comes out of that, then I think the council would determine how to best go forward, whether it would be to extend HART's mandate and to do more things through the HART, or exactly what it would be. That expansion might not even be a rail line. It might be a BRT line. It could be anything. But I think it's a good start to start looking at a high level. I think AMPO is responsible for long-range transportation planning on the island, and I think they're with their executive director. They really step forward and they want to get involved in more of that type of planning. And they're the right place right now to start, at least from the agency's perspective.
Okay. No, that's super helpful. Because it seems like far away, but the 2030 date's going to pop up on us, and then it'll be like, oh, we didn't do any of the planning to continue forward, right? So I appreciate your input, and mahalo, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Members, round 2 questions. Please recall that we can also put a lot of things in writing. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. I know that you just said put things in writing, but I do think
questions are good too.
Okay. I think it is worth talking about since we did talk about this last week, but I did see a lot more comments about Skyline and as it relates to the audit. And I know that I want to hear from you directly as it relates to the numbers, how that's going, and if there's anything that else was missed in the audit or report.
Well, I thought the headline number on the audit was there was a 44% decrease in ridership. That's just not true. There were 75,000 people that rode the system free in the first 5 days, and those should not have been considered as part of the ridership over comparing the monthly ridership in July with the monthly ridership in June. In fact, if I took out the first 4 days of July and started on the 5th and looked at the average weekday ridership, it was higher in June than it was in July. It was higher in December than it was in July. So we just think that was a headline number, and it was misleading.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any other round 2 questions? Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Just 2 questions, Director. I'm going back to the rail. Right now, we are budgeting about $77 million to Hitachi. to operate and maintain that and that segment has not yet been turned over to the city. So how much of that 77 million is allocated to operate and maintain segment 2 for half of the fiscal year?
Well, I think that most of the discussion we've had would be, at a minimum, it would be for 3/4 of the fiscal year if we started in the October timeframe, for example, which is what we are looking at, is starting in the October timeframe. So that's 3 months of non-operation. And when we look at that, that would be, there are other considerations. There are certain claims against us. There's certain things that would go up even if we don't operate it. But our estimate is about 5 million would be not expended out of that 77.
Okay. Wow, okay. Thank you. And my last, I guess our estimates are about 20 million. So you're saying out of the 77, only 5 million would not be expended?
That's our estimate.
For 3/4 of the year, not half. Okay, thank you. And I was just curious, in your report, there was a section here that talked about the Transportation Mobility Division that included about $4 million for, it says, Human Services Transportation Coordination Program for agency provided trips program enabling 5 local social service agencies to transport their clients who would otherwise use the handy van. I was wondering if you could explain that. How are these agencies chosen? Who are they? What the $4 million is used for specifically?
Sure. Historically, Handy Van provided all of that transportation. All the riders are essentially, all the riders are ADA qualified to use Handy Van. Now, there are a number of state programs that particularly for elder care that are funded through Medicaid. And so there's the state agencies historically paid $2 a ride for the handy van service. The handy van service costs $50 to $60 per trip. Now, the department, way prior to my time, cleverly decided that it made more sense to subsidize these waiver agencies so that they could provide their own transportation, and we subsidized the operation. And the cost of the trips for the waiver agencies are $12 to $13 a trip versus $50 to $60 a trip. So in the absence of the program, they would be carried by the handy van, and it would just put another demand on the handy van. It would make the handy van slower. And as to which agencies are selected, we are open to any agency that's willing to step up and take on the responsibility of operating a transportation system and can demonstrate to us that they have the capacity to do that safely, because we see it as a direct saving on our handy van side.
No, it sounds like a really good program, and thank you for being mindful. I like that your department is, whoever created this or started this, that they're being mindful of the money.
I have to give my credit to Eileen Mark. She was the architect when that
sounds
program
like a great
was put
idea.
together.
And once these companies or these agencies, I'm sorry, are chosen, they're vetted because you said that you care about the safety. Is there some kind of like evaluation process to see what's happening as after they're chosen to make sure that the riders are safe?
There is an oversight that goes on that to make sure the vehicles are safe, to make sure the operation, and there's a very close monitoring of the operation on an ongoing basis.
Thank you, because we don't want to have any unnecessary liabilities on the city, but it sounds like a great program. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Members, any other round 2 questions? Okay. I have a few just to wrap up. Just to follow up on a line of questioning from earlier, we're going to be requesting in a little bit more detail the streets and other areas that are going to be covered by the proposed traffic control devices and other things in the CIP budget. I did want to focus in on the operations of rail, as in our discussions. I know that there is an additional cost for phase 2. I know that the timeline for beginning operations on phase 2 is still in the air to some extent, but I do want to get to some degree, some specificity. As much as I'd love to give the department 12 full months of it, we just heard from Lori that she's looking at October. So I don't need an answer now, but I want to let you know that by the time the budget is done, I'd like a little bit more specificity. So we're giving you enough money, but not a whole ton of money beyond what's needed to operate phase 2. And then building upon Councilmember Kia Aina's question about schools and that area, I'd like to work with you to see if there's any ability to get that process started for at least perhaps one school per district. I mean, I think all of us can immediately think of a place in and around our district that's only 9 that we can start with where it's really needed. So those are not questions for me, but those are just statements from the budget chair. All right, members, final call, DTS. Okay, thank you very much. Members, up next we have the Department of Permitting and Planning, but seeing that it's 12:08 right now, what I'd like to do is, with your indulgence, perhaps we can come back at 12:45 and begin with DPP and then the last 4 departments. I realize today is probably going to be a little bit longer than the past 2 days, but hopefully we can get through these 3 departments, or the 4 remaining departments fairly quickly. Any objections? Yeah. Any objections to reconvening at 12:45? All right, hearing none, the committee is adjourned until 12:45. Thank you.